Welcome back. We all do it probably a dozen times a day, right? Creating a calendar event. It feels completely instant. You click, and poof, it's there. But today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that one simple click and really uncover the incredible, surprisingly complex journey that it takes behind the scenes.
I mean, really, have you ever just stopped and thought about it? That one little action you take kicks off this massive chain reaction across a huge system? It's not magic, not at all. It's actually a beautifully engineered process, and it's designed for some serious scale and reliability. So, let's walk through it step by step.
So the very first thing you got to understand is that your click doesn't just, zap an event into existence. Nope. That click is more like the starting pistol for a multi-stage race that happens deep inside the system's architecture. All right, so here's the roadmap for our whole journey. First, your request actually has to wait in line. Then, it gets its credentials checked, sort of like showing ID at a security gate. Once it's approved, its information gets filed away permanently. And finally, a message gets sent out to tell everyone else, hey, this new event exists. So let's break down that very first step.
Okay, so your request's first stop is something called an SQS queue. That's Amazon's simple queue service. And honestly, the best way to think about this is like a digital waiting room. It just neatly lines up every single request from every single user and makes sure that none of them get lost. It allows the system to process them one by one without getting totally overwhelmed. This is the bedrock of the whole orderly process.
So once the request finally gets to the front of the line, it can't just waltz right in. It has to pass through a digital gatekeeper, this security checkpoint that has to validate whether the request is even legitimate in the first place.
And who is this gatekeeper? Well, it's a little piece of code called an AWS Lambda function. A great way to picture it is as a super efficient clerk who picks up one file, one event request at a time, and runs through a really specific checklist before giving it that stamp of approval.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this checklist. The system is asking some pretty important questions here. Like, first off, is this account even active or has it been suspended? Have they already used up all their event slots for the month? Oh, and are they a paid user who gets to bypass some of the limits? This is where all the business rules and security really come together.
And this quote from the system's own documentation just nails it. It says it all, right? This step isn't just about letting an event through, it's about actively managing the entire system, preventing misuse, and keeping track of absolutely everything. It's pretty brilliant.
So, our little event request has the green light. It's been validated. Now it needs a permanent home. It has to be officially recorded and stored somewhere it can never, ever be lost.
And that home is a database called Amazon DynamoDB. And let me tell you, this is not your grandpa's old dusty filing cabinet. This thing is a massive, hyper-organized digital version that can store billions of records and find any single one of them in just milliseconds. This is where our event becomes official.
So what exactly gets put into this digital filing cabinet? Well, it's not just one thing. The system is actually smart enough to create 3 separate records. You've got the main event record, right, that has all the core details. Then it updates a statistics record for the organizer, just to track their activity. And finally, it creates a handy lookup record so the system can find this specific event super easily later on.
Now, here is a really crucial point. The way these 3 records are saved is key. The system does what's called a transactional write. Think of it as an all or nothing deal. All 3 records have to be saved at the exact same time perfectly. If even one of them fails for any reason, the whole operation gets canceled. It's an amazing safety measure that guarantees your data is never left in some broken, incomplete state.
Okay, so our event is validated, it's safely stored away, the hardest part is over, but believe it or not, the journey still isn't done. Now the system needs to tell all the other interested parts of the application that this new event has just been born.
And to do this, the system uses something called Amazon SNS, or Simple Notification Service. The perfect analogy for this is a digital town crier. It just stands in the middle of the digital town square and yells, "Hear ye, a new event has been created." It doesn't need to know who's listening, it just broadcasts the news for any other part of the system that might care.
So why does that even matter? Well, because other systems are listening. That one little broadcast can trigger a whole chain reaction. One system might hear it and fire up to send you a confirmation email. Another might update a dashboard with the new event count. Maybe another process starts getting the invites ready. It's how all the different parts of a huge application talk to each other without being directly connected.
So we've just walked through a pretty complex journey, right?
And it all started with just one click. You might be wondering, why? Why all the fuss? Why not just write it directly to a database and be done with it?
That's a great question, and let's tackle it head on. This isn't just complexity for the sake of complexity. No way. Every single step that we've just talked about serves an absolutely vital purpose in creating a modern, really robust application.
And here they are, the benefits. Because of that queue at the beginning, this system is massively scalable. You could have 1 million people click Create Event at the same time, and the system wouldn't crash. They'd just form a nice, orderly line. It's also incredibly reliable. No request ever gets lost. The validation step gives us built-in security, and the whole thing allows for the automated management of user limits and stats. It's so efficient.
And here's the real magic of that queue we started with. What if, say, the database is down for a minute or the validation service has a little hiccup? Does your request just disappear into the ether? No, it just stays put, safe and sound in that digital waiting room, SQS. And the system will automatically try again in a little bit. Nothing is ever lost. That's resilience. So the real takeaway here is this. The anatomy of that simple click reveals an entire architecture that was designed from the ground up for resilience. It's the secret sauce that allows the apps we use every day to feel so instant and so reliable, even when millions of us are clicking all at the same time.
It really gets you thinking, doesn't it? What other simple clicks or taps or swipes that we do every single day are just the tip of some incredible technological iceberg? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. It was a lot of fun.